What you are about to hear is a 1994 radio interview with Sid Bernstein, the music producer and promoter who brought the Beatles to America in 1964 for appearances in Carnegie Hall and Shea Stadium. When Bernstein booked the Beatles in 1963 to come to the U.S. the following year, they were virtually unknown on this side of the Atlantic. In fact, they were so unknown that when Bernstein told his wealthy friend Abe Margulies about the Beatles and asked him to provide the money for the Carnegie Hall deposit, Abe said, "If I were in the last stages of syphilis, will I be crazy enough to allow you to present a group like that and let people know that I gave you the money?" 6 months before the date of the concert, Bernstein had only filled half the seats at Carnegie Hall and was deeply worried. But a few months later, the wild popularity of the Beatles in Europe spilled over to the U.S. and the event became a sellout. Because Bernstein had booked the Beatles a year earlier and they were scheduled to arrive in February 1964, Ed Sullivan was able to book them on his show for 3 consecutive appearances starting on February 9th, 3 days before the Carnegie Hall extravaganza. Bernstein told me that the Carnegie Hall booking agent thought the Beatles were a chamber group. Carnegie Hall had never before hosted a popular music group like the Beatles. Sadly, American treasure Sid Bernstein died at the ripe age of 95 on August 21st, 2013. But fortunately, on this retrieved 1994 radio show, Choices on WEVD-AM radio in New York City, that I hosted along with my colleague Marcella Weiner, you can hear Sid Bernstein himself tell the remarkable story about how he first learned of the Beatles, booked them for a mere $4,000, twice the amount they had ever received for a UK booking, and then later brought over to the U.S. the Rolling Stones, Herman's Hermits, the Moody Blues, the Dave Clark Five, and the Kinks. Bernstein literally set off the British invasion of musical talent. Bernstein also tells some fascinating anecdotes about other stars that he worked with, such as Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland. Here's Sid. Sid, welcome to Choices.
Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to this half hour.
Well, first, for those who don't know who Sid Bernstein is, let me tell you something about him. Sid's been connected in some way with almost every modern music celebrity. In addition to bringing the Beatles here, he brought us the Rolling Stones, the Dave Clark Five, Herman's Hermits, the Moody Blues, the Kinks. He promoted the careers of Weather Report, Melba Moore, Phoebe Snow, John Denver. He's presented Tony Bennett, Judy Garland, Frank Sinatra, Johnny Cash, and Glenn Campbell. And Sid was an agent for Fats Domino, Ray Charles, and Miles Davis. You can see that we'll be here all night if I continue with the list, Sid. But more importantly, Sid is back with Bethel 94.
Sid, Bethel 94 is the Woodstock's 25th anniversary concert. Tell me, how did it get started, and more importantly, how's it going?
In 1969, August, 4 young men, very young men, got an idea to do a festival. Originally, they tried to do it in the town of Woodstock, where one of them lived or had a summer home. Mm-hmm. The town wouldn't give them permission, and they searched through all the towns up in that area, and finally Bethel, the little town of Bethel next to the Monticello racetrack, gave them a license and a permit to do the concert. They liked that town so much they wanted to call it Woodstock, and that name has stuck for now 25 years.
Well, I want to say also that we're going to be taking calls, so people can call in and talk directly to Sid Bernstein, and they can ask you about the Beatles or some of the other groups that you brought over here, that whole period of music, a very important period in American music history, or also Bethel 94. So you could call us here at area code 212-477-5610. That's area code 212-477-5610. Now, Sid, let's recreate something. It's 1963, and you're a young promoter. You hear about this group, the Beatles, that looks good. They look like the rising star. How do you get the chutzpah to say, I'm going to bring them over here, get the first rock concert in Carnegie Hall, the first musical stadium event, and then you pull it all off? I mean, how did all that happen?
I tell you, I used to be a gambler. Really, I used to shoot crap, play cards for stakes. There were little.
Was this a crapshoot?
I quit gambling, and I went into another form of gambling on instincts and gambling on musical events. And I was then a student at the New School for Social Research, where I now teach on Wednesday nights, the business of music. And the professor, a noted educator named Dr. Max Lerner, luckily told the class, read an English newspaper every week. I used to go to the out-of-town newsstand at Hodlings on West 42nd Street, pick up that English newspaper, and it was the right time to be reading an English newspaper if you were in the music business. And I learned about the Beatles long before there was any airplay here.
Sid, let me ask you something. Particularly the Beatles, you know, they kind of turned America on its ear. Every kid wanted to wear his hair long. Girls were fainting in the street. Did you see these exceptional qualities in them, this particular kind of almost amorphous genius, but something that was so direct and so magnificent? Did you see that right away in them?
I'd like to claim credit for what you just said. No, it was just a hunch. Reading about their progress, the enormous progress each week as I read the English newspapers. And I just felt, I've got to bring him here. There's no fortune teller, no crystal ball.
But how did you pull that off? Did you call Brian Epstein?
Yes, I called Brian Epstein at the end of that term at the New School. That was in February 1963. They had become enormous in their own country, and I got him on the phone after doing some research, finding out where he lived, and called him at home. And he said, "We have no airplay, Mr. Bernstein. We don't expect any." And I said, "You will." I didn't know if they would, but I said, "You will." He said, "What do you want to pay us?" I said, "What do you get?" He said, "The equivalent to $2,000 a night in the music halls of Great Britain." He says, "That's the highest salary that anybody gets here in show business." And I said, "I'll pay you twice that, you know."
Okay, well, we're going to be right back with Sid Bernstein. Remember, call us at area code 212-477-5610. But first, this word from Marymount Manhattan College. Okay, we're here with Sid Bernstein on WEVD Greater 1050 in New York. Sid, you've offered the Beatles $25 million to come back for Bethel 94. How are those negotiations going?
I made the offer publicly. The news has traveled around the world. It's appeared in the London Sunday Times and the London Daily Telegraph, on CNN, USA Today, and yet no word from any one of the three remaining Beatles. And I plan to go over to England in 10 days and hopefully sit with them one by one and see if I can get them to say yes. It's a long shot. I'm not betting on it.
Is the offer the factor? Are you going to up the offer to them?
No, I think that's about as far as we can go. The gate at Bethel 94 equals $12 million. So what I'm betting on is that if they should say yes, we'll probably make a closed-circuit deal or a pay-per-view kind of deal, if they should accept the offer.
I want my ticket now.
Okay, you'll have them in
well, maybe we can make you a little counter-offer. If they don't accept, Marcella and I will come there and we'll sing our hearts out for just $1 million. Right. How about that?
That sounds good, except we'll have to negotiate that price, okay?
Okay. We're open to negotiation.
Sid, I wanted to ask you something. As a psychologist, my feeling is when people do something like you do in your fabulous way, promoting, what is there, you think, inside of you that made you the dynamic promoter you are? I mean, did you ever want to be a rock star? Did you ever want to be on stage? I mean, what was there about you? Because it has to be there inside of you. And I'm asking you, like, where is it? What is it? And certainly you're doing something with it.
I believe it started in the Catskills when I was an only child. My folks and I used to go up to the summer resorts that they went to in those days. The Morningside Hotel in Hurleyville and Kramer's and Ackerman's and Loch Sheldrake. Places, unfortunately, that don't exist anymore, but on Friday nights and Saturday nights was entertainment. And as a kid, I used to sit with my folks and watch the entertainers.
You never were on the stage, no?
No, and I wanted to be
Really?
either a comedian or a singer, but I have no talent. And so I chose...
Well, it seems you have a lot of talent.
And so I chose to be around talent as a manager, as an agent, and then again a manager, and then after that as a promoter of musical talent.
Did you then manage some of the people in the Catskills, Sid?
Not in the Catskills, but rock people, mainly pop people. And so I got it off that way by being a manager, a promoter, and also later on an agent, and now back to promoting again.
You bit the bug early.
Well, okay, let's go to the phone. I think we have Judy from Brooklyn on the phone. Hello, Judy, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Yes, do you
Can you
have...
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you have a question for Sid?
Yes, I wanted to ask Mr. Bernstein, for Bethel 94, is there anyone else lined up other than the Beatles?
I wish what you said was true. They're not lined up yet. It's just a wish and a dream and a hope on my part. But I'm talking to a number. We just got the green light, by the way, last week to go ahead. The town hadn't made up its mind until January 28th. And this week starts the search for talent. I can't tell you who we'll get, when we'll get them, but I'm hoping by April 1 to be able to announce a most interesting group of musicians.
Okay, well, Judy, you're the lucky first caller, and for calling in, we're going to send you a set of tickets to Damn Yankees, which is opening on the 14th. That is for the previews. So how do you feel about that? Is Judy still there? Oh, she's gone. Well, should we tell her that it's opening in Herzegovina, though, and that the airfare isn't included? Actually, it's opening at the Marriott Marquis Theater on Broadway, and it's going to be the hottest ticket in town. So if Judy's there, she ought to call us back so we could get the information and get the tickets to her. Okay, now, Sid, there's always been a lot of talk in the music or the entertainment business in general about how much of success has to do with promotion and how much has to do with talent. As a matter of fact, I saw an interview with, I think it was either Mick Jagger or Keith Richards, who said in the early days, and you brought that the Rolling Stones over here too, that in the first few years that they were concentrating more on promotion than on the actual music because it was so important.
I'll tell you, in my class on Wednesdays at the new school, I talk about and I'm asked about how do you make it? What percentage of talent do you need? Bernie, the question that you asked me is one of the most often asked questions by young people. It's a combination, and I don't really know what the percentage is, but it's a combination of talent, a combination of luck, a combination of promotion, also having the right manager who is dedicated to you as an artist or to a band as a band. I also want to tell you that it is tougher now, from my point of view, than it's ever been before to make it. I think the big dollars, the huge amount of dollars, and so many magazines and publications devoted to show business, not the tough part of show business, but the glamorous part of show business, the success part of show business. And it isn't all success.
Sure.
And it isn't all glamour.
But you feel it's tougher now for
much
youngsters.
tougher.
I mean, they were 19 and 20, weren't they? Those groups that came here from England?
Yeah, I guess when I met them, they were 20 and 21.
Okay, I think We have Susan from Queens now calling in.
Susan, can we have your question and tell us what it is you want to ask?
Hello, I would
Hi,
like
Susan.
to ask Mr. Bernstein,
Yes.
what gave him the confidence to put his faith behind a group like the Beatles at a time when America was listening to something totally different?
Thank you. Sid?
Susan, I got to tell you what my very, very dearest friend said to me when I said, this is Abe Margulies, a philanthropist and very popular jeweler, who's no longer with us, unfortunately. When I needed the money to do the concert at Shea Stadium, before that at Carnegie Hall, it was just a hunch. And when I went to Abe to ask him for the money so I could put deposits down, and he said to me, what are their names? I said, the Beatles. He says, the what? I said, the Beatles. And he said, Sid, in my last stages of syphilis, will I be crazy enough to allow you to present a group like that and let people know that I gave you the money?
Cute story.
Okay, we have now Jack from Long Island on the phone. Jack, you have a question?
Yes, I would like to ask Sid if he thinks that he can cope with the logistics of feeding all these people. Last time I lived in Bethel, and last time we had to feed them, empty our refrigerators, all the way from Bethel, all the way around through White Lake, and all the way around through Swan Lake. We didn't have any food left in the refrigerators. That was only after 2 days.
Okay.
And I don't know if he realizes
Sid, maybe you can
how
come with a little...
difficult that was.
I think Sid may be thinking he should only have that problem.
Maybe come with a little hot dog stand, Sid, on
Jack,
the outside.
Yes, Sid.
I've been on this project, this challenge, since 1986, and most of the stuff I did was a one-man show. You know, I'd book a hall and book an act and get the tickets printed and put an ad in. This is so huge an undertaking that we have no less, Jack, a little different than the days when you were there in Bethel, than 6 urban planners. We're working with the state troopers and the sheriff, and we're working on all the problems that happened way back in '69. Our attendance is limited to 80,000 people. We're working on traffic controls and staging areas for the automobiles, and we're also working on food. My kitchen isn't big enough, Jack. Notice yours to feed those.
But you're
people.
prepared this time.
But we are preparing.
We're going to have to cut for a commercial now from Damn Yankees, as a matter of fact.
Okay, guys.
Okay. We're talking to Sid Bernstein on WEVD, New York's Greater 1050. And apropos of Damn Yankees, we're actually going to have Richard Adler, who wrote the words and music to Damn Yankees, on our show on February 27th, so you'll all want to mark that down. And remember, call us here now if you want to ask a question to Sid Bernstein at area code 212-477-5610. Now, Sid, you know, popular wisdom says you can't go home again. The original Woodstock just happened. Nobody planned it that way. 400,000 people just suddenly showed up, and as I said before, it should happen again to you. We wish you all the luck with it. But, you know, the times have changed. The counterculture is dead. The fight for the holy buck is numero uno now with young people. You know, how does that figure into your planning for Bethel 94? And I suspect, you know, knowing your creativity, that you've got something up your sleeve.
It's not up my sleeve, Dr. Starr, but I'm a dreamer. And also a student, part-time student of human nature. And what we are planning to do here with this concert is not only provide the best 2 days of music that one can possibly hear, pop music, but we've got a message to send. The Woodstock generation is 24 years old. We're calling this one the Bethel generation. The Woodstock generation had a slogan, peace and love. We look back, there wasn't too much peace and there wasn't enough love.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about our slogan. The dream we have is bringing out the best in man, the best in us. We're talking about civility, and we're going to have 12 seminars, and you may be invited to one of them, We've got about 500-600 young people who are already recruited as volunteers, and we want to talk to them about civility and set a tone like has not been set for any other concert.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful sentiment.
We have somebody on the phone now.
Jerry.
Yes. Jerry? Jerry, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi. Okay.
I wanted to ask Mr. Bernstein a question about the management of these artists. I myself managed a jazz group a couple of years ago in the Bay Area. How did he manage to keep his artist performers focused on their best work?
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great question.
A high-level performance.
Yeah, because I was watching a video just last night of the Beatles coming here to this country and of the Rolling Stones, and what impresses you was that they were really kids. I remember I saw this video of Mick Jagger in the airport being interviewed. He must have been also 19 or 20, and he was nervously puffing on a cigarette. Did you worry about that they wouldn't be able to handle this? They came from nowhere, where a bank job was considered success, to the mecca of music here in New York.
Jerry, we're going to get to your question right now.
I tell you, I have 6 children of my own. I've had some practice dealing with young people, 6 delicious, wonderful children, and I was concerned about the behavior of my artists, and I tried to be not just a manager, but to be big brother, counselor, shrink, not just a nursemaid, not just a 10%er. And I was lucky to have some magnificent people as clients, starting with the Rascals, Melba Moore, Laura Nero, Phoebe Snow, Larry Gatlin, and I did all that I could to tell them how important it is not to forget that they're not only artists and performers, but they're human beings.
Sid, let me ask you something, because I was thinking along the same lines. When you listen to people talking about Beatles, Rolling Stones, Judy, Garland, etc., very often you hear something like, well, the artistic personality. With your wide experience and with your sensitivity to these people, is there such a thing as an artistic personality? Was it difficult working with them? Did certain personalities emerge that kind of gave you a hard time and others that didn't? Or, what about this whole concept?
The most difficult time was when I managed a group. The interplay between 4 or 5 people in a group, for example, the Rascals, were 4 individuals. And individually, they were incredible young men. But the interplay and the interaction somehow didn't work as beautifully as it should have among 4 wonderful people. The Blues Project, another great group. Out of that came Al Cooper, and it spawned Blood, Sweat, and Tears. It's when you get into a group of people that the challenge is a very formidable challenge.
Beautiful statement. Are you still there on the line?
Jerry, did you get your...
Oh, great, because we want to give you 2 tickets to Damn Yankees. You're the lucky winner of a set of tickets to Damn Yankees.
How about that, Jerry? Did you expect that tonight?
No, I did not.
So stay on the line, and Jason will...
Yes,
Jerry, stay on the line. You don't know what's coming up next.
Okay, Jason will take the information from you, and you're going to see a great show. Right now, we'd like to say a few words to the audience, especially if you'd like to advertise on Choices. We have a word for you. Now, just switching gears for a moment, Sid, as I mentioned in that fantastic bio on you at the beginning, you've managed all kinds of people, most notably some of these big rock groups. But, how was it handling these other people, the Sinatras, the Garlands, etc., compared to handling rock talent?
You don't handle people like Sinatra, who is pluperfect as a performer.
Really?
Before he gets on stage and when he's on stage and after stage. They handle themselves so beautifully, or he wouldn't be around almost 60 years now.
That's true.
Judy Garland, that was another story. I saw her at Carnegie Hall on her comeback. I was so taken with her that I had to present her, and I did. up and down the northeast corridor.
How old was she at that time, Sid?
She was not well at all, and it was sad. It was so sad. Sick, I'm sure, still drinking.
But singing well.
But the minute she stepped up on stage, and often we had a sister up the stage, and that little pin spot hit her face. She was the most incredible artist I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Who was the person you liked working with the most?
I liked Judy Garland because it was a simpatico thing. I felt so much compassion for her, having all this enormous talent and not being, before performance and after performance, not being the healthy lady she should be, or could have been.
Well, okay, that was really an interesting story that you told us about the Beatles, about the music business in general. We're getting to the close here, and we really need more time. We talked about this before. We're going to have to keep to get you back here. Sid, it was really a thrill having you here today on Choices, and we're going to keep in touch, and you'll give us updates on Bethel 2 and your offer to the Beatles. And remember, you can have us for $1 million. And we'd like to remind our listeners about some of our upcoming shows.
Next week, Jane Brody will speak on why diets fail. Then the following week, we have the producers of Donahue, Geraldo, and Montel Williams on how Talkland affects their personal lives.
Yeah, and we have some other exciting people, too. Joe Franklin will be stopping by, actress Vivica Lindfors, as I mentioned, Richard Adler. So tune in on Sundays at 7:30 to Choices on WEVD, New York's Greater 1050. I'm Dr. Bernard Starr.
And I'm Dr. Marcella Weiner, hoping that you make the right choices.